Hi everyone, it's Tamara here with another card making tutorial. I'm again using the Miraculous Muffin Halloween Toppers set from Streamside Studios to create this Halloween inspired card. You would have seen me recently do another one of the muffins and created it as a Frankenstein, but I wanted to actually utilize some of the other stamps that come in the set to create a kind of pattern paper look and utilize the Happy Halloween sentiments that come with the set as well. At the end of this tutorial, for those that are interested, I do have a video showing how I actually created this on my computer. So if you are interested in seeing that, just make sure to keep watching until the end of the video. Otherwise, if you're just interested in the coloring, that will be coming up first. So once I created this on the computer, I printed out onto some Copic XPress cardstock, just a little bit bigger than the actual die that I was going to use to cut it out. So I grabbed out a stitched rectangle die and ran that through my die cutting machine. So now my panel's all ready to go for coloring. To keep this tutorial quick, I'm only going to color one of each of the items, and I'm going to be using the same colors throughout the whole coloring process, just to make it easier for everyone to follow along. Okay, so I'm just going to do the ghost first. I'm just going to add some shadowing. So obviously that little lolly will be, or the candy corn will be throwing a shadow over him and also at the very base of him. So I'm pretty much going to have the light shining straight down onto my card. I'm going to blend that out with the C1 and then using the C00, just blend up into that white cardstock, but leave that white cardstock so that our ghost still looks white, and just blend that out to soften the edge with my colorless blender. So now I've done the other ghost as well. Now I'll do the same with the candy corn, but I'm just going to use C3 because I just want it to kind of stay quite white, and blend that out with C1, then the C00, and then up with that colorless blender into that white cardstock to soften that blend. So we see that's still got that shadow down the bottom, but still looks like it's colored as well. So that's our white part of our candy corn. Now we'll just go in with our orange, and again I'm just popping that shadow down the bottom of our candy corn, blending that out with the YR04 and our YR02. Now I just wanted to reinforce, so I didn't fully color up because I want to keep the top of that candy corn the lightest. So I'm just going back in with my darker colors to reinforce that kind of darker shadow at the base of our candy corn. And then I'll just blend that up now with the YR04 and then get the YR12 fully covered, sorry, YR02 to fully cover the top of that candy corn. And I'll do the others off screen. And now we're just going to finish with our yellow portion of our candy corn. So with the shadow, I've chosen V01 and go over that now with the Y08. So we see the base of our candy corn will be in shadow, but also where that little kind of hand of the ghost will be throwing a little bit of shadow as well. So now we'll finish off with the Y04. And that is our yellow part done, and I've done the others off screen. Now we'll start coloring our little headstones. So I'm just going to be using my N markers for this. So the darkest is N8, and I'll blend that out with the N6. Again, I'm kind of having the light coming at the very top. So the lightest color will be N4. So just coming around that, and then I'm just going to do a very soft edge with the N2 around the side and finish off with the N0 just to color the edge of that headstone. And now I've done the others off camera as well. Now we want to put, like, there's a light burning inside our pumpkin. So I'm just going to color up in that the same yellows that we did, but I did use the VO1 to add a bit of shadowing in there. And now I'm going to use the same oranges that we used for our orange portions of our candy corn. So I've got my E09 in there, blending that out, sorry, E08, blending that out with the YR07. The YR04 is next. And then at the very top of our pumpkin, we'll have our YR02 again. So I'm just making sure that there's a nice soft edge for our YR02 to blend out nicely. And I've done the other pumpkin again off screen. Now the next up is our witch's hat. So I've got the shadow on our left hand side with our darkest colour. So again, I'm just using those end markers, and I'll just do these little bolts that are coming off the Halloween as well with that same end markers. So the N6 for this portion. And I do remember later on that I've missed a little part of the hat, so I finish off those little bolts, and then I'll bring that N08 in there to do that little portion underneath where our little buckle is. And blend that out with the N6. And now we'll bring in our lightest marker in this combo, which is going to be our N4. And I'm going to go over those colours again just to reinforce the shadows. I'm not going to worry about the bolts because they actually look quite good, but I just wanted to make sure that I've got a lot of contrast in this hat. So I've gone back in with the N8. We'll blend that out with the N6. Just working a little flicking motion so that we get a nice smooth blend out when we finish off now with our N4. So now we've got that lighter portion on that right hand side. Now I did forget to colour the top of the pumpkins, so I've grabbed out just 2 markers to do this because it is quite small. So my shadow colour will be my E87, and then we'll blend that out with the E84. And now we'll colour up our band of our hat. So BG99 will be the colour I'll be colouring this up. So I wanted to put a bit of green into our panel, and blending out that in with the YG07 and then our YG05. And for our buckle, I'm just going to use 2 markers, the Y26 and the Y15, just to make it look like a gold buckle with the darker colour down the bottom. Now I'm bringing my C markers back in to colour up our skull with the shadow colour, the C3 down the bottom, just flicking up with our C1, and then we'll bring in our C00 marker to blend up it again, leaving a lot of white cardstock so that we still look like a white kind of skull, and just soften that blend with our colourless blender. And we'll make sure that there's quite shadow in the eyes, so I'm bringing those end markers in, the N8 and the N6. For the nose, it's quite small, so I only have a very small portion for our N4 to finish off that blend. And then the final thing that we'll be colouring up are these little witch's legs. So again, the shadow will be down the bottom, and we'll grab that N6 to blend out the N8. So I'm just going to do all the black part of the shoes and stockings. So I'm going to have some nice green and black striped stockings. So we'll finish off with the N4 as our highlight colour, and finish off those little black stripes. And then we'll bring those same green markers in that we used for that hat, so the BG99 as our shadow colour. And then we'll blend that out with the YG09. Just flicking across. YG07 is next. And then once we do that, our final colour. Because that wasn't a lot of space, I didn't worry about the YG05, but we did the same colour. And this is a finished card for this tutorial. As you can see, I've already glued and attached it to a black card base. But if you are wanting to continue watching to see how I did this on the computer, I haven't learned how to actually kind of attach my computer panel into my video. So I've had to kind of record it, videoing it from afar. So it's not the best recording, but it might give you an idea of how to use some background stamps to create a digital panel like this. So continue watching. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I popped up my Word document and I'm just going to click on the insert button up on the left hand side there and click on the shapes. We're wanting to get a rectangle onto our screen so that we can work out exactly what size we need for our panel to make sure all our little pieces fit inside it or around the edges of it. So click on shape format and I'm just moving my computer over, and we just want to pop in the size of the rectangle that we're going to be using to create our panel. So for our die cutting, I'm going to be using a stitch rectangle panel that measures 10 centimeters by 14 centimeters, and I want to get rid of the fill. So I've right clicked on that and you just click on the fill button and then put no fill in, and that removes that blue color or whatever might come up on your screen. So now we've got a clear panel for us to start adding some of our little sentiments and images. So you click on pictures, and we want to go, for me, this device, but you might have yours on like a memory stick or something like that. Now, sorry, I was working on some of these nightmares ones from Wandering Rabbit. So I'm going to go into Windows and go into my Streamside Studio ones. So we'll go to the Halloween add-ons, and these are all the different images that come with that set. So we're going to start by adding the sentiment. So I'm actually going to use the Happy Halloween sentiment. So I'll click on that one. So there are a few sentiments that come with the set, but the Happy Halloween was the one that I wanted to use. So I'm wanting to move that into our little rectangle panel. So we want to make sure that sits above. So what I want to do now is also make it bigger. And I'm going to actually separate this because I want the Happy Halloween to fit on the front panel. So I will need to break it into two portions. So I'm going to crop this down. So you'll see that I right click on and actually copy that because I'm going to use the happy part and the Halloween part. So we need to make sure we've got two of those. So for the happy part, we're just going to click the crop button. So right click your mouse, click that, and then we're just going to move that across so that just the happy is showing. So we want to do the same thing. So click on the other sentiment, right click and crop. But this time we're going to get rid of the happy. So you're just dragging those little lines on the left over to the Halloween side. So now we've got our sentiment, Happy Halloween, in the size that we want and broken up. So now I'm just going to make sure that that's nice and centered in the middle of that panel that we're going to be cutting out eventually with our rectangle die. So now we want to insert some more of those pictures. Now we've got our sentiment set. So I'm going to start working out the items that I'm going to be using in my actual panel. So obviously we've got a couple of witches' legs. So I'm going to add a few of those and start kind of working out where everything's going to be placed. So with this little turn button, you can actually adjust how your legs are, kind of what direction they're facing, and move them to and fro. So we want another image. So I've gone to pictures and I've grabbed one of the little candy corns. And again, I'm just clicking so that it is in front of our rectangle panel. And we're going to get one of these witches' hats, attach that, and get that attached down the bottom. So we're just working between all our images, so you can get a few up and put them kind of to the left hand side before you actually work out where they're going to go on your actual panel. So I'm just going to pop our little one in there, and now off camera I've actually done that separately because I didn't want you to watch me do it slowly, inserting all those images. So I did that off camera, and these are all the images that I'm going to use in our panel now. So now I'm just going to work out my adjustment. So you do want some overhanging that rectangle because we want to make sure that there's enough room when we cut that out with our stitch rectangle die, that there's going to be enough room for it to sit. So I'm just going to now just shuffle around. I wanted that hat kind of looking like it's sitting on top of the H for the happy part of the Halloween. And then we're going to have this leg coming out down the bottom. So you just move it around until you're happy with where everything is placed. So I'm wanting to shuffle that leg around because it was in the way of our sentiment. And we want that kind of coming in off on the right hand side. Then we'll get our pumpkin just sitting down the bottom and just shuffling everything about until we get it in the spot that we're wanting. So I'm just going to shuffle him, this little ghost, and kind of fit him in to the side here, just above that pumpkin, partially hanging off our panel. And we'll get our little skull down the bottom. And we'll get one of our headstones. So you just want to kind of move them around until you kind of fill all the spaces of your panel. Just click it. So every time you want to use one of the images, you just click on it so that those dots form around the rectangle. Now I'm wanting to get this leg coming out of the Halloween. So we're actually going to want to put that so that it's actually behind the Halloween sentiment. So you'll see I click and go behind. So that now sits behind there, and we can just shuffle that up. But we'll still keep working on these other items, working out where I'm going to put everything. I'm going to click that down the bottom. Just kind of shuffle everything around until we're filling in all that space. So I did have a lot of candy corn, but I wanted another of the pumpkin and another one of the hats. And I've grabbed a couple of those bolts because I'm going to actually have that at the side of the Halloween. So it looks like the Halloween is a bit of like a Frankenstein look. So I'm just going to click that so it goes again behind the Halloween so that it blends seamlessly. I'm just going to shuffle that headstone a little bit. So I'm going to move that out of the way so that I'm free to adjust these bolts and that doesn't get in the way. So once I'm happy with that, I'll click on the other bolt and picture format. And I'm wanting to flip that so that bolt comes on the opposite side. So you just go and adjust that and you flip it horizontally. And then we want that again behind that N. So we've just put that behind, and we want to angle it the same way as the bolt on the other side. Just saw there that I accidentally clicked that Halloween, so that's getting in my way. So I'm going to just move that back out of the way, bring that Halloween back. And then once I'm happy, then I grab that bolt and move that into position. So now that is done. Now let's finish adjusting our bolt on the left because that's moved a little bit now. And then we'll finish off getting the rest of our images in. So I'm just going to move this other headstone up because I'm going to pop that hat sitting on the side. So we're just going to move that around so that's kind of sitting on the same way as our one that's sitting on our Halloween, or the H for a happy. So I've just had to move that witch's leg up a little bit so that now fits in. And we do have a few little empty spaces up here, so I'm going to grab another couple of items and just shuffle everything around. So we'll grab another one of those candy corns. I end up grabbing another one of the pumpkin heads. So you'll see me kind of shuffle that around, and then I decide to pop that pumpkin head up there. So rather than go in and attach it, which you can just insert, you can just copy that. So you click on the image that you want, press copy, and then paste it. And now we've got a second pumpkin head without having to go into that insert into all your pictures. So you can just replicate other items that you have on your actual front. So I'm going to grab another one of those headstones to pop up the top. We're going to turn that upside down, and now we've kind of got 3 there, so that works quite well with the one down the bottom, the one to the middle, and the one at the top. So trying to keep it all balanced out as well. So I'm going to now change that and just move that ghost up there, and then just move this rip so that way it's kind of got those 3 looking in like a little triangle. So we'll just adjust that to the right side, and I just will do a few little more adjustments, moving things around so that everything's got a plenty of space, but all our space is filled also. So I'm just making sure I'm happy with everything, seeing what I need to move. So we'll just adjust that foot so that it's around the other way. So that adds that little leg there, and then we'll just adjust our candy corn once we've got that in the right space. So we've got our leg up there, just adjusting how it's coming in, so that way we can pop that little candy corn just in that corner. That fills that space in nicely. Move that down, and then we'll just move that pumpkin a little bit. But I end up deciding just to move that hat and also that headstone. So I move the hat out of the way so I can move the headstone where I want it, and then bring that hat back in and sit that on top. So I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Now we want to get rid of that rectangle because we don't want that showing when we cut it out. So you just need to make sure you click on somewhere on that rectangle so all those little dots appear around the edge, and then you can just press the delete button to get rid of that rectangle. So now that when you run that through your die cutting machine, it's just going to cut out that panel as I showed you at the beginning of the video. So I know that's a bit of a rough and ready of how that was digitally made, but I hope it gives you some ideas of how to use some of your background stamps. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I hope you have a happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.